with our mindfulness groups, we'd like you all to just kind of do a check-in, if you will. So you'll see on the bottom of the screen here, it says, take a moment to check in with your body and mind. And what I mean by that is, physically, what are you experiencing right now? Emotionally, what are you experiencing right now? Cognitively, what are you experiencing now? Meaning, what thoughts are you having in your mind at the moment? Could it be you're thinking about that thing you got to do after this, or that happened earlier that was really embarrassing, that's maybe playing over and over your head? Or maybe that thing that was really sad that happened to you this past weekend. Maybe some of those thoughts and emotions are present with you here in this moment. And all I want you to do is simply take note of what you're experiencing it. You're an observer, if you will. You're just noticing. So, for example, a little bit ago, I was saying it was kind of stressful that my computer wasn't functioning. So I'm currently warm and a little tense from that. So I'm physically feeling that. Emotionally, I'm feeling pretty upbeat, pretty energized and happy and content in the moment. Thought-wise, I'm like, oh crap, this is how our first group is going, with all of these problems that arose. And instead of adding judgment onto everything I'm experiencing, I'm simply just going down a checklist of, I am noticing this. So that's what it means to check in with yourself, simply noting what you are experiencing and not adding judgment. So just a little run through of what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to give a brief introduction of what is mindfulness and how to practice it, as I've kind of given a couple of examples up until this point. We'll then do a candy activity or a food activity, whatever you have to consume here at this moment. If you have like a drink, even if it's water, that would be fine as well. We'll then have a little discussion about how the activity went, and I will wrap it up with some helpful mindfulness apps that you could perhaps start to utilize outside of these groups. If you have any questions, you could feel free to use the raise your hand feature. You can type in the chat as I have it right in front of me. When we get to the discussion part, you can either type in the chat, raise your hand, unmic yourself, or unmute yourself, whatever you're most comfortable with. So, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment. So the fact that it's a practice means it's something that you have to do over and over again. And once you do this over and over again, you'll then be more able to use the mindfulness skill. So what does it mean to be fully present in the moment? It means that you are aware of what's going on, physically, emotionally, thought-wise. It's exactly what we did right in the beginning with the check-in. You are simply noticing and you are aware of what's going on. Adding on to that, mindfulness and being fully present also means to accept what you are experiencing. So I am aware that I am feeling a little tense because I was having a bunch of tech issues and room issues, but I am accepting that that is what I'm experiencing right here in this moment. I can't really do anything right now to change how I react or how my thoughts are or my emotions are. So I'm just going to simply notice and accept that that is what's going on here in this moment. And the last part is being non-judgmental. Now you could be aware and you can accept what's going on, and then you could add a judgment onto it. That's essentially when you're being mean to yourself or being critical to yourself. So I'm aware that I'm feeling tense right now and there's not much I could do about it, but crap, why didn't I change how I did this before? I'm so dumb. Or I really don't want to be feeling this way. This is so frustrating. I'm adding that judgment onto it, and that makes me feel more tense. Whereas instead, You're being non-judgmental. You're being open to the experience. You're allowing it to be within you, essentially. So you're not adding judgment onto it. And those three pieces are essentially what it is to be mindful and fully present in the moment. So why do you want to practice mindfulness? Why is it important? How can it help you? Well, the first is that there's a lot of science and evidence, research, data that supports how helpful mindfulness can be, and specifically for these bullet points here. The first is that it can improve your overall well-being. If you were here right in the beginning, I was explaining the ratatouille GIF that I have in the top of the chat. You'll see that Remy is really enjoying the food he's eating. There's like fireworks and colors, and he's really enjoying it. Mindfulness can help you experience that with just your life. You can be fully present and in the moment with something you really, really enjoy. And instead of thinking about that thing that's really stressful in the future, or that thing in the past that happened that you can't control that happened, you're right there in the moment, allowing yourself to just live your life and enjoy that thing that you really enjoy. It helps your mental and health and well-being. It can help you to sleep better. So if you have a lot of racing thoughts before you go to bed, or even if you wake up in the middle of the night, mindfulness can be a great tool to help slow your mind down, calm your body down, so that you can help your mind and body to fall asleep. It can reduce levels of stress, as I've illustrated previous to this page, and it can help your overall happiness and joy in life. It can help you feel happiness and joy more fully. Now, we know, I don't need to tell you all this, that college is challenging. That's probably an understatement. It's tough. It's not easy. But using mindfulness as a skill can really help you. And it can essentially help you to be resilient, to develop your ability to be resilient and withstand things that you experience. Andrea earlier with the room situation, it's like, oh no, what's happening? How could this have happened? I'm so dumb. Why did this happen? Instead, she was just kind of riding the waves of what was happening rather than creating larger waves in that moment. She was just being able to be resilient to ride the waves of what was happening. Have any questions about mindfulness up until this point? Okay. So go ahead and grab that piece of candy, that snack, that food item that you have, that beverage that you're going to use for our activity. And what you're going to do is we're going to use that snack to practice mindfulness. Now, while we're practicing, you may notice that you're going to start thinking about, oh, really anything. Our mind kind of always thinks about things. We always have thoughts present, and that's okay. Again, that's the first step practicing mindfulness, is being open to that, being non-judgmental that you are thinking. If your mind does wander, again, know that this is natural, and you want to gently guide it back to the exercise that we're doing. What I like to describe thoughts when you're trying to be mindful, your thoughts are clouds in the sky, if you will. You ever gazed at clouds and you just watch them go by? You can't control the direction of where the clouds go. You're just simply noticing them. So if you're noticing all these thoughts, simply point them out like a cloud in the sky and just let them keep going on their way. You're acknowledging, letting them do their thing, and letting them keep going. You're not entertaining the clouds and thoughts, you're simply noticing. So with that, I'm going to read a script to guide you all through this activity. So if you have your food ready, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First, I want you to take your piece of candy or food, and I want you to hold it in between the palm of your hand. or in between your fingers and your thumb. So you're just holding it right now, okay? Take the time to really focus on it. Gaze at the candy with care and full attention. Imagine that you have just dropped in from Mars and have never seen an object like this before in your life. Let your eyes explore every part of it, examining the highlights where the light shines, the darker hollows, the folds and ridges, and any symmetry, or unique features. So I have some strawberries with me right now. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm simply just going to notice physically what I see about it. So you can point out, wow, I've never really noticed that the light shines on the strawberry in this way. Or there's really a gradient of red to like a light pink coral with white lines within it. And I see these little seeds all the way. They're kind of yellow. They're a little darker. So I'm just being curious and I'm making observations, physical observations of it. Now I want you to turn the candy or food or drink, if you have it in a glass, over between your fingers, exploring its texture. So you're now touching it, feeling the physical sensations of it. Maybe do this with your eyes closed if that enhances your sense of touch. So rather than looking at it, you're closing your eyes and you're just physically feeling what that feels like. So for me, with the strawberry on one side, it's bumpy. And I wouldn't say it's dry, it's smooth. And on the other side, it's a bit slimy. Kind of weird to describe that. Just it feels slimy. Now take the item that you have and hold it beneath your nose. I know it's going to sound silly, but hold it beneath your nose. I want you to sniff it, to inhale it. So with each inhalation, take in any smell, aroma, or fragrance that may arise. As you do this, notice any interesting sensations that may be happening in your mouth or your stomach as you're smelling it. Again, be curious with me. Just kind of try this, okay? So it's so weird to think I am smelling a strawberry in front of all you all. And that is something that I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing humor in this moment because it feels weird to do that. But otherwise, I'm smelling a strawberry. It smells sweet. It smells fruity. Now, slowly bring the food to your lips. Noticing how your hand and arm are, and know how your hand and arm know exactly what to do and how to exactly bring it to your mouth. Once you have it touching your lips, gently place it in your mouth. So you're kind of slowing the process down of how you're eating this. And gently place it in your mouth without chewing it. We're not even eating it yet. We're simply noticing. And notice how the process of you just putting food in your mouth in the first place. Spend a few moments focusing on the sensation of having it in your mouth, exploring it with your tongue. Again, this may be a weird sensation for you. Why am I not eating it yet? Why do you want me to explore it with my lips and my tongue? Yes, you're simply using your sensations to be in the moment. Be like Remy, how he's experiencing the lights and the sounds as he's just noticing these sensations. When you are ready, start to chew your food item. Notice how and where it needs to be for the chewing. So do you eat it and it starts on like one side of your mouth and then it goes to the other, or you're only chewing it on one side? Then very consciously, 1 or 2 bites into it and notice what happens in the aftermath. So what happens after you're biting, after you're chewing it? What are the waves of sensations that you're experiencing as you're chewing it? Now, without swallowing it yet, and if you have, that's okay. But without swallowing it yet, notice the bare sensations of taste and texture in your mouth and how these may change over time. Moment by moment, also pay attention to any changes in the object itself. So if I were to start eating the strawberry, right now it's pretty solid, but if I were to start chewing it, I'd probably notice it becoming more mushy, and it would change from a solid to a liquid, and how I would start to notice how that sensation would feel as I'm eating and swallowing it. When you feel ready to swallow the candy, go ahead and do so, and if you have already, that is okay. See if you could first detect when your mind and body have that intention to swallow. What is that experience like? Is it a conscious thing or an unconscious thing before it happens? And the last step is for you to see if you could feel what is left of your food as it's moving down your esophagus and into your stomach. Sense how your body is feeling after you've completed all of these steps. And if you've done these steps multiple times already, that is okay. But just again, you're using your sensations to really feel what it's like to eat that item. And that was our mindful eating exercise. And so now that we've done that activity, I wanted to take some time to kind of discuss what that was like for you. So either in the chat box here, or you can raise your hand. I'd like you to share what that experience was like for you. You can either answer the questions that I've shared it as an open-ended question, or you can use some of the discussion questions I have on the screen. So, was it difficult to remain in the present moment? In what ways do you already practice it, mindfulness, or see yourself being able to use this activity? And then I'll save that third question for the end, but why don't we go ahead and take some time so you can all either answer in the chat or write it down, or when you're ready, you can raise your hand. And I'm going to eat this strawberry because it's looking really tasty as I've just been reading through the activity. I know I ate that pretty quickly, but I had the sensation, do you ever have it where you're really hungry and once you eat something, you could feel it in your salivary glands? I'm probably saying that wrong, but you just feel it there. It took me aback for a second as I was trying to practice noticing what I was eating. I do see some of y'all have started to type in the chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and read some of your responses. So Molly, I see, wrote, I was a little focused on the directions, so I didn't realize to unwrap the candy. You know what? In your defense, I don't think I even said to unwrap your item, so that was my bad. Thank you for letting me know. Julia said, having something to focus on so intently helped me focus more than I usually can. I found my thoughts wandering only a couple of times. Yeah, it's definitely common for it to happen. The first couple times I was myself, somebody guided me through a mindfulness activity, my thoughts were all over the place and it was so hard to focus. So I'm glad to hear that this helped you to focus more than usual. Allison said, it was a bit difficult to eat so slowly because it's a process that I rush through and pay little mind to day to day. That's so true. We're so used to, oh, I got to eat and run, or I'm eating because I'm really hungry, that we don't always take the time to just slow down and savor. I totally feel that, Allison. Jennifer, I see that you wrote, it was interesting to notice all of the details of the food. Yeah, it's interesting, and I know for me it's a little weird at first to just notice all these sensations. Kelsey wrote, I was actually quite surprised that my mind didn't wander as much because I was extremely hungry, so I was pretty focused. Yeah, when you're hungry, it's so easy to just, yeah, I'm just going to eat. I'm just going to focus on that. But I'm definitely hearing some common themes in what you all shared. Your focus, you were surprised at some point in time with your focus or by the activity in of itself. And I'm really glad to hear you all gave yourselves the permission to just try this. Before I ask the next question, I do see someone typing in the chat, so I will just wait till I see that response. And in the meantime, I'm going to eat another strawberry. I have a lovely plate of them right here. Does anybody want to respond to what's some of our chat responses were? Do you have any thoughts on what some of your fellow peers might have said? Kelsey, I'm so sorry for making you upset. I know strawberries are quite delicious. I'm very lucky. I just got them the other day, and I've actually added some Nutella with them. I just haven't dipped it in them yet. Anyone have any other final thoughts on the activity? Oh, I'm seeing, Jennifer, you're saying that you feel the same way as Allison and usually rush through your meals. Yeah, it's definitely a thing. I'm wondering how y'all can maybe try this activity throughout the week. Do any of you have any suggestions about how you might be able to apply this? Seeing some responses in the chat, so I'll just wait till those get typed out. So our first suggestion, Molly said, I would try to pick maybe one thing at breakfast or another meal to do it with. I'm curious as to why breakfast came to your mind first, Molly, if you'd like to share that. My suggestion would be that because breakfast is awesome, but I'm super biased. I love me some pancakes and fruit in the morning. Kelsey suggested, I also run through snacks quickly, and I finally took the time to embrace the intensity of the cheese for my Cheetos. I would try ice cream. Oh, I'm so jealous of your Cheetos right now. There's something about the cheese powder and like noticing that sensation. Oh, I wonder what it was like for you with the like cheese powder and what that felt like and noticing that. Oh, I need to try this with Cheerios. A good suggestion with ice cream. Julia said, I practiced this today with just my water, so I'd like to take a moment to pause whenever I take a sip throughout my day. That's not a bad idea. Like, I wonder what it was. I've never tried this with water before. I wonder what that would be like to really notice the sensations of that. And you'd also like to try this with a food item. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Molly, you're replying to, I think with the breakfast, you're saying it's the only meal I eat at normal hours. Nah, everyone's normal hours are different. That's fair. Thanks for sharing. Jennifer said, next time I eat, I will try to not watch TV or do work while I eat so that I could just focus on the food that I'm eating. Oh, Jennifer, I'm so glad you wrote that. That is so true. And really a great tip when it comes to practicing mindful eating, which is what we did today, mindful eating. That if you remove any other distractions while you're eating and just focus on your food, you can really focus on these sensations. To start small, try, Jennifer, I know you suggested maybe just trying without doing work or TV. You can also try it with just your favorite food. So mine is ice cream. So maybe every time I eat ice cream, I'm just eating ice cream. So I can really enjoy why I love ice cream so much. Julie, I see that you've also added in the chat, you said The smell. Does it really? I know it sounds silly for me to say, does it really? But it's because I've never noticed it, which I never realized until today. Nice. I wonder if different waters have different smells. I'm sure different like brands, or is it like the plastic you're smelling, or the water itself, or the container? They do. Okay, Kelsey can confirm. They do have different smells. Wow, we're learning new things today, folks. Maybe it's just tap water. Maybe it is. I have some water right here, actually. I don't know how you would describe the smell of water. It smells cold. I don't know how you could describe that. Now I'm just sniffing water in front of you all. That's fine. It's totally normal to do. Thank you for sharing all that and all of your thoughts and experiences. I really appreciate it. As a final discussion question, I know we've kind of dabbled into this actually. Is there any other ways that maybe instead of mindful eating, is there any way that you could just practice mindfulness throughout the week from what you've learned so far today? Does anyone have any thoughts, ideas, suggestions to that? Some people typing in the chat, and you've all had some great ideas so far. Thank you again for sharing. All right, I see a suggestion in the chat. Molly suggested maybe thinking about what your surroundings feel like your feet in your socks, or what you can hear or walk or on a walk to class. That is a great idea. Yeah, like maybe when you're about to leave your humble abode for the day, what's a sensation that you're going to try to notice that you've never noticed before? It's a great idea. Allison suggests maybe taking a step back from thinking about my amount of work and process my assignments one by one. That's a great idea. It could be so easy to feel overwhelmed by how many things that we have going on, that just focusing on one assignment or even one part or step for that assignment can really help you to be more present and to not feel as overwhelmed about everything that you have. Great tip, Allison. Jennifer suggested maybe taking a moment and noticing how you feel. Like when we are outside, we always say it's so cold. So maybe just acknowledge that you feel cold and then noticing how warm and comforting your hat and gloves are. Another great idea. Yeah, I wonder how to add on to that, Jennifer. Maybe there's a way you could describe cold in a different way. So you're noticing my nose is cold, but it feels more like XYZ description and sensation. And even with, you said, noticing how warm and comforting your hands are, how would you describe that sensation of comfort you feel with your hat and gloves, or how that warmth feels? So maybe something to add on to it as well. Well, that is essentially it for today's group. We will follow this format for all of the groups that we do, which will be a intro to mindfulness. We'll then do an activity, do a little discussion, and then we'll wrap up with some helpful apps. So if you haven't heard about these three that I have on the screen here, let me tell you about them. They're really, really helpful. They do have some free options. And these are really the top three mindfulness apps that I recommend to folks. The first one is Calm, simply as that. This one is really great for guided meditations and what do I want to say? Guided sleep stories, or you can like listen to people reading stories to you when you go to bed, and it's really calming, and you practice mindfulness to notice what it's like to hear those calming stories and voices. Headspace is really a well-known mindfulness app that helps you to learn what mindfulness is and being able to practice it in your everyday life. I think Headspace, you have to pay for it now, so maybe just explore that option. My bias and personal favorite one is My Life, also known as Stop, Breathe, Think. That one is free the last time I checked. And the reason I advocated for it so much is that when you open the app, it tells you to check in with yourself and notice your sensations, feelings, emotions, just like we did at the start of this. And then you tell the app what those emotions and sensations are that you're experiencing. After you put that in, the app will then do its calculating thing, and it will give you a list of meditations and mindfulness activities for you to do based on what you're experiencing right there in the moment. It has been so helpful that the app is just like, you're feeling this way, try this. Oh, you're feeling this way today? Maybe this might be better for you to try instead. So I encourage you to check these apps out. Again, that's Calm, Headspace, and My Life. And that is it. Oh, I see a chat. Kelsey, you said, is that kind of like a mood tracker? The My Life one, there is, you could, if you check in consistently, it will track how your mood is. So it can, yes. Thank you for asking. And Chloe, you are very welcome. I'm glad that we're here. Please join us next week. Check us out on Facebook, email us. My last question for you all, if you're interested in being reminded about these groups, please join us next week as we'll talk about a Remind app. My graduate assistant, Claire, is taking the lead on that, so I'm going to have her talk about it next week. I see there's another chat. Molly said, I have a question about how this relates to Honors Connect. This is how I found this event. Is there anything I should fill out besides the default survey? Is this to confirm your attendance, Molly? If so, you could go ahead and email us at, I will say, bewell@niu.edu and just be like, hey, I went to this thing. Can you confirm my attendance with, I believe, Connie? And then I will email her to say, hey, this person showed up to this thing. And then there you go. Is that what you were looking for? Oh, great. I'm glad to hear that. And Kelsey, I'm glad that you're going to check that out. If you join us next week, I'd be interested to see how that went. Otherwise, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next week. Either join us virtually or in person. Hopefully the room got worked out. Or if you're going to miss us, you can email us and I can send you the recording. But have a good evening. If you want to stick around for any questions, feel free. Otherwise, I will end this meeting. Thank you all. Have a good night.